Ulupono's overall mission is to make Hawaii more self-sustainable, and the primary focus is reducing our dependence on imports, and that's imports across local food and agriculture, as well as energy and transportation.
In order to achieve a clean economy across all sectors, we know that we have to tackle transportation, which accounts for probably something like 2/3 of all the oil that we import.
I believe that we can really be a leader in this space. We have all the right conditions, renewable energy, so our vehicles, our cars, our buses can be powered by the sun and the wind.
Hawaii is leading the charge, and here's just another facet in showing that Hawaii really is serious about climate change.
2030 is when we want to have 100% of our light-duty vehicles converted, so I mean that's coming right around the corner. Now's the time to start planning for that.
Not only cutting our carbon footprint by going to electric vehicle, but also cutting it by making sure we get rid of some vehicles that we don't even need.
I think the Department of Transportation is really putting its foot on the accelerator, not the gas, on the accelerator. Kudos to them for getting us out of the gate. They're not just taking a step, but they're running out of the gate.
Ground transportation is a significant contributor to not only greenhouse gas emissions, but our consumption of fossil fuels. So to the extent that we can transition to electrification or zero-emission vehicles, we're reducing our consumption of fossil fuels and our emissions of greenhouse gases.
Starting in 2018, Hawaii was actually the first state to pass in statute to establish a target to have 100% zero emissions, carbon neutral clean economy by 2045. In 2021, we passed House Bill 552, and this mandates the transition of state fleet light-duty vehicles to electric vehicles by 2030 for passenger vehicles and 2035 for the rest of the light-duty fleets. State leading by example is an important step to lead the rest of the state along in this transition.
In our policy approach to deployment and adoption of EVs, we have this belief that we have to build infrastructure at your home, that somehow your house has to be a charging station. We have to have it at shopping centers and all over the place. I'm really a bigger fan of trying to change the gas stations of today into the EV charging stations of tomorrow.
This year we passed a bill, House Bill 1142, to provide a sustainable source of funding for the EV charging station rebate program that we established in 2019, so that it will have ongoing sufficient funds to continue to build out electric vehicle infrastructure in the state, which of course is the thing that needs to happen before more people can make the choice to purchase an EV.
So the experience for our guys has been very positive. Of course, there's been an adjustment because a lot of the vehicles that we've replaced, are 15 to 25-year-old vehicles. So besides the technology advancements that have come with cars, switching to EVs has also been an adjustment.
Huge opportunity, and not just an opportunity to convert to EVs, not just an opportunity to get better vehicles on the system to make sure we can utilize them better, but also an opportunity for us to really consider whether or not we need them. So like I said, we had 300 light-duty vehicles on our system, and I don't know how utilized they are. When we start converting over to these EVs, there is data that comes in that allows us to see what usage we get out of them. Then we can really understand what we need on our system and what we don't. At this time, we're looking at, of those 300 vehicles, replacing only 240 of them and getting rid of 60.
Our guys are really impressed with all the Tesla safety features especially, and they feel real good about driving these cars. And it's been real good, real positive for our guys.
Teslas came out to be the best value based on the contractor's pricing. And for several reasons. Now, Teslas, their maintenance record is impeccable. We looked at the Bolt at the same time and the Leaf. When you look at the resale values after the 8 to 10 year contract that we're looking at, it's much higher. So because of that, he can put that into the pricing to ensure that we get the best value for the state. When we look at the way Tesla upgrades their systems, the way Tesla supports the system, it made the price much, much better. So in the end, for the state, best value. We got the lowest price and the best value for that.
Another benefit, is that we transition from ICE vehicles to electric vehicles, gives us an opportunity to right-size our fleets. For us, when we picked out this first 43 vehicles, we converted a lot of SUVs and some light-duty trucks to just sedans or the Tesla Model Y SUVs. So yeah, just look at your fleet, see what you really need. And with this contract, because it's statewide, all departments can participate in it. Try and leverage the charging infrastructure with other departments. At certain locations, there may be 80 state vehicles among multiple departments. Share the charging infrastructure so you can spread that cost around.
There's strong momentum across the board. So, you have Almost on a daily or weekly basis, you have car manufacturers announcing new vehicles or new commitments to go zero emission. So there's very strong momentum. And in addition to that, policymakers across the globe continue to beef up policies anywhere from outright banning internal combustion vehicles to setting new targets and new adoptions and new commitments. Locally, I would say one of the biggest challenges is ensuring that there's adequate electric vehicle charging, specifically for those that can't charge at home. So folks living in apartments, condos, multi-unit dwellings, it's very challenging to go home and plug in. Current EV drivers, 90% of their charging, they do at home. We can really bolster and enable the folks that currently can't do that to either do that or to charge in the public. That will really proliferate and support further adoption for those that are currently hesitant.
If we're going to hit our 2045 goals, the state has to lead. We have to start converting our vehicles, make it easier for everybody else, then the public can follow.
It's always hard to start doing something new. You're used to something, you're comfortable with it. This is sort of like basic human psychology, I guess. A lot of Hawaii's workforce works in government. You're just really expanding that exposure to EVs, and I think that will help to build the market. I think that the role for policymakers really has to do with the demand side. And to increase demand, it's kind of all the things we've already talked about. The infrastructure needs to be there. We can work on outreach and education, and we could do additional things like offering rebates or tax credits for purchase. I think if we can help build demand, then supply will follow.
I myself got a personal electric vehicle, and I didn't realize how many charging stations there are. And maybe with us being smaller, and you probably don't drive more than 30 miles a day, that all the charging out there, it really makes it convenient. And you can get an EV and not feel range anxiety. Even myself, I took our EV up to Haleakala, and I think when I left my house, I had 180 miles of range. I got up there, I ended up with like 75. So I got a little nervous, but on the way down with the regenerative braking, I think I ended up back at my house with 130. So net was only using 50 miles going all the way up to the summit.
The state has, some pretty ambitious climate goals, so of course, this is an important part of that. Transitioning to EVs will reduce our contribution to emissions that cause climate change. But it has a bunch of other benefits also, including, reducing pollution locally. We will be saving money for taxpayers, so for the transition of the state vehicles, the estimates that we heard from DOT in their most recent procurement was something like 75% savings in vehicle maintenance costs over the lifetime of the vehicle, and somewhere between $200 and $300 per year savings per vehicle in fuel costs. And then of course it also will reduce our reliance on imported fuels. That makes Hawaii more resilient and independent. This transition to electrifying the transportation sector is really a benefit to the utility.
At Hawaiian Electric, we're very excited about the electric bus make-ready infrastructure pilot program. In talking to transit operators and bus operators over the last few years, we learned that there's two major barriers to transitioning their fleets. The first one is cost, the upfront capital cost in particular, of the bus itself, the charging station, and then all of the infrastructure to support it. And then the second barrier is really transitioning from diesel fueling to electric managed charging. And so we hope that this pilot really addresses both of those challenges.
Those are the kind of issues that really make change possible. I think when you have all those voices coming to the table saying we support this, it makes it a lot easier to get things done.
People are slow to react, right? We're humans, we're creatures of habit. We like to do the same thing tomorrow as we did yesterday. And the spark the state provided this year is perhaps one part of pushing the public to embrace the new regime, which is electrification of its transportation.
Everything says we need to just accelerate the change that is happening now.